Welcome to Valley News Live at 9. I'm Justin Betty. Tonight, local first responders with Sanford Ambulance are raising concerns about staffing shortages. They presented their worries in an annual report to the Fargo City Commission last night. Today, Valley News team Zachary Wyan spoke with them about those concerns and what could be done to address them.
It's the job of EMS to help people that are going through a crisis. However, for the past few years, EMS has been going through a crisis of their own.
Well, during the pandemic, fewer people are interested in entering the workforce in this type of work. I think that's the core of it.
Tim Meyer is the Senior Director of Emergency Operations at Sanford Ambulance and says the department has been dealing with staffing shortages. Sanford Ambulance has about 175 positions, but is currently 20 people short. With employees having to work overtime to cover the gaps, it affects how they deploy ambulances.
We have dedicated employees and they've stepped up to the plate. Every call gets handled for sure. It's just we would like to deploy our ambulances in a different pattern or with a different deployment plan, and the staffing struggles will impact that.
Sanford Ambulance has taken several steps to address the shortages. One is by increasing salaries for employees, which Meyer says has been successful. Another is starting a paramedic academy within their existing training program, something they started last year.
Within that same paramedic school, some folks are in the academy, meaning not only do they get a free ride with tuition and books, but we'll pay them a salary for their hours worked. So it's essentially a job to go to school.
Meyer says the program will graduate 9 this year. In total, Sanford Ambulance will add 16 paramedics this summer. The hope is the added opportunity of the Paramedic Academy will attract more looking to make a difference. Reporting in Fargo, Zachary Wyan, Valley News Live.
Myers added that despite lower staff, response times have not been significantly affected, at least not yet.